Well, my chapter is called Philosophy in Comparative Education. What can we learn from East Asia? I think in looking at education around the world, people tend to focus on change, the pace of change, the rapidity of change, without reflecting on the fact that there's a great deal that doesn't change in education. There are very deep-rooted values, usually coming from philosophical or religious traditions in different societies and parts of the world. So in this chapter, I suggest to students how they can use ideal types to get a little insight into core values in different civilizations and how they influence education over long periods of time. So the first part of the chapter suggests a comparison between Confucian values of the human person, of society, of knowledge and the learning process, and Platonic values. I then go on to look at ideal types of Karl Marx's views on education and those of John Dewey, both of which were very influential in the 20th century. The chapter then proceeds to consider 8 societies in East Asia which are widely regarded as Confucian heritage societies. They include China and Japan, South Korea, Vietnam. They include Taiwan, Hong Kong, Macau, and Singapore. And when you look at these societies, you see at least 5 different kinds of imperialism that has been experienced over the 20th century. That of France, that of Britain, that of Japan, that of Portugal, and what are sometimes thought of as the neo-colonial, neo-imperialist influences of the United States and the Soviet Union, particularly during the Cold War era. So what is truly surprising is to find, in spite of these very great differences in terms of political influence and societal development, in spite of the fact that some are socialist societies, some are capitalist societies, there are very similar experiences and patterns in their learning processes, in the ideas of their teachers, in their classrooms. So the last part of the chapter really comes to the point, what can we learn from East Asia? And it looks at a very influential study entitled The Learning Gap, which studies over a 15-year period of time schools in 2 American cities, in Chicago and Minnesota, and in 3 East Asian cities, Sendai in Japan, Taipei in Taiwan, and Beijing in China. And the surprising thing to find is how many similarities there are among the schools, teachers, and classrooms of these 3 Asian societies. We learn a great deal about classroom organization, about children learning from one another, about a very profound belief in the potential of each child to develop fully, about important connections between the family and the school. Many practical lessons that are actually relevant and applicable in North American schools. So the chapter really focuses on what can we learn from East Asia and tries to suggest to our teachers ideas, approaches to learning that they would be able to apply in classrooms in North America.